Before we start this week's podcast, let's thank our amazing sponsor this week, Syncfusion. Yes, that's right. Syncfusion, the company that we've been talking about for the last 18 years. Syncfusion builds the world's best UI component suite for no matter what you're building, whether it's web, desktop, mobile apps, or so much more. And it doesn't matter what you're building with, whether it's Blazor, Angular, React, JavaScript, Vue, .NET MAUI, Flutter, Xamarin, UWP, JavaScripty stuff, WinForms, WPF, they got you covered. They got you covered so much that they have hundreds of components, Excel processing, PDF processing, Word, PowerPoint, and so much more. Power like analytics and BI integration that you can get into your applications is lovely. I use Syncfusion in my personal apps, and I even have a case study on the Syncfusion websites because I love them so much, and I integrate them into my Animal Crossing app back in the day. If you're interested in supercharging your applications with a beautiful UI suite, check out syncfusion.com/emerge conflict. That's syncfusion.com/emerge conflict to learn more about Syncfusion's awesome controls and so much more. Thanks, Syncfusion, for sponsoring this week's pod. All right, Frank, here we go. Let's get into it. All right, so many people may be wondering, this is the week after Ignite. This is the week after .NET Conf. And
all these things are true.
Are not talking about it at all this week. Why is that, Frank?
That's because we're doing the time warp thing, where everything you just said was a complete lie. You're lying to people, James. You're just lying. It's terrible. I'm here to speak the truth. The truth is we're recording before the conference because James has to go gallivanting around the world because that is what James does.
I am out on holiday. I'm officially disconnected from the internet and the world. And I'm very, very far away into the future, in fact, days into the future. So I'm all over the place, and I'll be back and forth into different places, not transferring over the time to international dateline too many times, but at least once. And I'm just gone for a while, and we'll be back very close to when this podcast will be out. However, .NET Conf will be over, and we record things usually on a Tuesday, which would have been perfect for the podcast because we could have put it out after all this amazing stuff that was announced. But I don't know what's announced at all. I mean, obviously I do because I was played a big part in the keynote, which I'm super excited for. And if you watch this, the .NET Conf keynote, what a banger. I'm just saying, John Galloway, me, whole team, amazing people, Damien, Safia, Dan, Glenn, Fowler, Maria, all the people, oh my goodness, are absolutely astonishing. It's the best keynote ever. If you missed the keynote, it's the best keynote ever, Frank, that I've ever seen at a .NET Conf.
Speaking of missing keynotes, how early does Future Frank have to wake up to catch this thing? Because I think Microsoft is notorious for their early keynotes. From the West
keynote
Coast standpoint.
Yes, the .NET Conf keynote, seeing that this had already happened, so people already watched it live, happens at 8 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday.
So we all know when we missed it. That's when we all slept into 10. We're like, oh, it was at 8. This is your past news announcement.
Day 2, funnily enough, starts at 9 o'clock, which is an okay time to actually start a conference. So the .NET Conf agenda is fantastic. All those videos are obviously on demand on the .NET YouTube. Go subscribe, do all this stuff. I will say this, though, an amazing team over there on the .NET team, which happens to be on the community side. My team just put out, in collaboration with the PMs and engineers and cloud advocates, 8 brand new beginner series. And I recorded a Blazor hybrid one, Frank. So brand new beginner series. You can go to .net, .net/videos. Those are all the beginner videos, and there's tons of them. We got a new .NET C# with this Scott Hanselman and David Fowler. What? Teaching you C#? Shut up. We got machine learning and AI with .NET IoT, upgrading your applications, a Blazor hybrid, C# and .NET with Visual Studio, NuGet package management, VS Code in C#. What? And even more coming along the way. So anyways, go check that stuff out if you haven't yet. Big shout out to Katie and Jimmy and my team for crushing it. I just love my team. .NET Conf is like the mecca, right? Because like Jeff has a big part. The whole team has a big part. It's like all hands on deck. The PMs, the engineers, everyone's coming together, Frank. The whole community, right? We got the 24-hour stream of goodness. Anyways, that all happened. And I hope that you all enjoyed it. I cannot tell you from the inside how much effort goes into this thing. It's wild. Anyways, did you enjoy it? Was it a great conference for you, Frank?
Future Frank definitely knows when the conference happens because his YouTube subscriptions. I'm an old man, so I go to the subscriptions tab in the YouTube app,
Mhm.
and that gets flooded with. Is it going to be purple or was it? Is it purple or blue? I wonder. Future Frank is already knowing that answer, but yeah, I love getting that set of YouTube videos because then I can just peruse them at my own leisure. I wonder how many I will have gotten through by the time people are listening to this. Yeah, I saw actually on the tweeters that you've become a Blazor hybrid man. Oh, it's the web. It's the web. You just can't avoid it. And that Blazor is pretty sweet. So it's but it is sad to me. I will make you a native developer again, but I will let you enjoy your Blazor hybrid lifestyle for now without too
Let me
much ridicule.
reiterate. Let me reiterate multiple times in every Blazor hybrid video that I mention and I've done. I'm not a web developer, right? This is not my day job. However, I love the ability of the blendability. And my real goal is this, is that for me as a native client developer, that's my jam. That's what I'm going to continue to do. However, there are many, 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 many web developers in the world, and I want them to come into the .NET MAUI
Well,
ecosystem slowly and surely, if that even means Blazor hybrid or hybrid web views or anything like that, Frank.
complete side tangent because I actually have absolutely no idea where we're going with all this. Um, it is kind of nice integrating web technologies into apps. I just have to say, like, for the past 2 days, I've been struggling with a list view, and I'm like, it's just not behaving the way I want. I just can't, and I can't get the stuff into it that I want to get
Mm,
into it, and all this stuff. And so I just had a moment, and I'm like, what if I take that list view and make it a web view instead? And just
good.
shove everything into HTML and make it render it because you know what? It's pretty darn good at that rendering thing. And I haven't done it, but I keep thinking I'm like every time I'm like messing with like this weird template code, I'm like maybe I should just convert this to a web view. Maybe I should just convert this to a
Yeah.
web view. So I actually can't make too much fun of the Blazor world. Plus, it's a good app model, so good for them.
One thing that the web has gotten really good at is like displaying a whole bunch of data in a bunch of really unique, fun ways. You know, and collect UI collection view went really far, right? In the recycler view and all these things over in the world of Android. However, there's a lot of work. And the nice thing is that with the web, there's just kind of a lot of stuff out there. You want a waterfall view, you want this flex layout, right? Like well, I guess flex view or flexbox. There's flex layout in .NET MAUI, but like
Mm-hmm.
also just like flex box is probably used for 10 billion years. Like it'd be easy to get super highly customized stuff, like across the board that's out there for the web. You can easily get the data in there. And then when you click on something, just pop back over to your native view. Right. So I don't know. It's not too bad.
Scrolling. It came down to scrolling for me.
Mm.
Like I hate websites that scroll jack, they override the scroll behavior with
Hmm.
JavaScript. But as an app developer, I'm like, gosh, I really want to take control of that scroller. And I'm like, can't really do it with the native controls, but I know I can do it with JavaScript because browsers are terrible and are awesome. I don't know which word to use. Awesomely terrible. And so I'm like, scroll behavior, it could be achieved with the HTMLs. Anyway.
Yeah. I go back and forth, to be honest with you. The biggest issue I have is CSS. One day I'll understand it and I'll get into it. I'm
Oh,
not even good at styling on mobile and desktop very good. But however, you just apply defaults, kind of like take cares of
ouch.
itself, but
Yeah.
CSS and media selectors and this, I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Seems complicated. So that's my downfall to the web, to be honest with you.
It's not so bad, but like the web has gotten into the programmable CSS, the SCSS. I can't even think of its name. I'm that much not a
SAS.
web developer. Sorry?
SAS?
Yeah, maybe. That sounds about right. Everyone's rolling their eyes listening to this. But I don't know. I've been a web developer since the 90s. I like CSS. I know CSS. I could write CSS. So I actually don't. I would say one of the benefits also of an HTML view in your app is CSS because oh my god, actually go read the spec on what you can do with borders and fill patterns on controls and it's freaky. It's freaky how much styling you can add.
And there's CSS animations built in too, which is wild to do, which is just bananas in general. So it's not that I don't like CSS. It's just that I don't know it, right? Because I don't do a lot of web work. So like I know that there's a lot of power there in CSS. So that's my struggle though. That's like me. I'm already when I go into HTML, I'm like, I'm okay with it. You know, I can do okay some stuff, but some of the advanced stuff, I'm like, I don't know. But then when it comes to CSS, it's like, whoa, Nelly. You know, it's like I'm going way back in time where I just am a super day one developer, basically. And that's my issue
Yeah.
that I have, Frank. Yeah.
I can write like CSS 1.0 off the top of my head, but for any of the, like I was just mentioning, like multiple borders or multiple fill patterns or generative CSS or like
Mm,
really controlling the selector hierarchy with required parents and things like that, that's when I have the MDN, whatever, Mozilla documentation up because, yeah, I've been doing it since the 90s, but who can remember that stuff? The syntax is so weird. But yeah, the animations, implicit. Some are implicit.
yeah.
Pretty cool.
Oh, okay. We got two other topics now that we've gone into Blazor Hybrid World. Go check it out. Go check out my series. I'll put it in the show notes. Second thing, did you watch any of the OpenAI developer days, Frank?
Oh, I did. I don't know how, like I caught it like day of, but fortunately the cat wakes me up at 5 a.m. every day. So I
Nice.
was able to wait 3 hours and still catch her. I forget what time it was, but it was quite interesting. I'm working on releasing an AI app, and so I'm very much in this AI world. And I think I want to do a whole nother AI episode in the future. But I absolutely did. The announcements were pretty cool, cheaper, faster, and a new app store, James. Which one's
Yeah.
more interesting to you? Cheaper, faster, or app store?
Break it all down for me because you know what? I know nothing about any of it because I was so
Oh,
busy with
okay.
.NET Conf stuff. I literally was like,
Hmm.
everyone in our chat's like, it's happening. And I was like, I don't got time for this. And then like, I didn't even watch the OpenAI Dev Day in 5 minute thing or whatever, like The Verge
Yeah.
does. I was like, I'm too busy. I got stuff going on. So I was like, I got
Oh,
Frank
okay.
Kruger to break it down for me. So
Well, I don't have the
9
numbers.
minutes, 10 minutes, go. Let's do this.
Oh, I can totally do it. I can totally do it. Oh, right. Everyone, the future, AI. Okay, that's my business speak part. I'm going to get all the numbers wrong here, so everyone go watch the real presentation and get the exact numbers here. But you've all heard of GPT-4. Well, let me introduce you to its little cousin, big cousin, GPT-4 Turbo. It's the
Whoa,
red one.
not five,
Mhm.
not five, not
No, 5.
4.5.
No,
Oh,
I think what like the cost estimates on these things are ridiculous. Like just training time alone is 6 months, and that's
wow.
not just computer work, but like there's human work involved. It
Wow.
takes time. Anyway, Turbo,
Turbo. We had
Turbo,
3.5 turbo, right, as well?
correct. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So the lineage 3 was the big one. 3.5 came out. 3.5 Turbo is what powered Chat GPT. So that's kind of the important thing there. That's the one that really broke it into the mainstream. And then sometime after that, GPT-4 came out, and now we have GPT-4 Turbo, which is bigger, better, whatever. Those things don't matter because what they actually worked on was improving developer support with it.
Mm.
And that includes things like improving the pricing of it because it's kind of expensive. Um, expensive, whatever. The rough numbers, oh boy, I hope I don't get this wrong, but I think it was something like 1 cent per 1,000 tokens or something like that. You can do the math, but if you're just talking to it on a day-to-day basis, it's not going to cost you anything. It's not very much. But if you're an app developer serving user requests to the API, then these numbers make important difference in your world because this is how much you charge your users, et cetera, et cetera. You build your business around these numbers. And they went from, I believe, 3 cents per 1,000 to 1 cent per 1,000. So a 3x decrease. Pretty
Oh,
awesome.
wow. That's
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
And then I believe that they went also for so this in this world everything's text, but it's not text. We turn it into tokens. and you actually get billed by the tokens. And so it gets a little bit smaller. So like maybe 1,000 word, whatever, 1,000 characters turn into, who cares, 500 tokens. Well, they're making that better. Now maybe it turns into 300 tokens. So it's actually compressing your data more. And I think they said with these things combined, it's something like a 6x price reduction because it's fewer tokens and the tokens are cheaper. And it's a newer model.
Wow. That's pretty cool.
Okay, so price, that stuff is awesome. But importantly, they're also going to keep it up to date. GPT 4 or 3, I forget which one, was notorious for its like knowledge of the world ended at September 2001, some just arbitrary date for their training data. The new one is caught up to something like April 2023. So it knows something about has anything happened in 2022 and 2023, whatever. It knows whatever happened in those years. That's good. Any of
That's
those things
awesome.
interesting? Well, they did a bunch of developer stuff too that I want to get into, but any of that
Yeah.
interesting?
Well, I mean, I think that all makes a lot of sense to me as far as like as they're pushing it forward, right? I think like as you commoditize AI, you can't really make it more expensive. I think it's sort of, well, I mean, you could. I mean, it's kind of like CPUs, right? There's like this curve and there's this, but then it's also sort of like, consumer goods. You like an iPhone, it continues to get faster and better, but the price basically tries to stay the same. But then they also have this other model. It's like a little bit cheaper type of scenario. So it's okay, what mode do you want to go? Do you want to go a hyper mode or this other mode? So I'd be very fascinated, right? It's like you kind of can pick your lever that you want. And I think this seems like maybe the route that they're going, or so it sounds perhaps.
Yeah, and the super cool thing is like GPT-4 and GPT-3 even got even cheaper. So they're like $0.003 dollars per thousand because like the
Oh, wow.
newest thing is established at this price. By the way, I forgot to lead with the most important part. Satya Nadella came out on stage
Oh,
and said
nice.
hi, and that was cool.
Oh, was that it? Just hello.
Pretty much just said hello. Hello, I like AI. I think that's what he said.
I love AI, guys. I love it. You love AI. I love AI. Everybody loves AI. I'm into AI. I'm into AI.
You paraphrased it much better than I did. That's exactly what he said.
I, you know, a fun fact about the .NET Conf keynote, which you've watched already because it already happened.
The
Wink.
amazing keynote.
There's a reference sample application which is synonymous in the .NET world, which is called eShop on containers, and there's a bunch of eShop on web and all this other stuff. .NET architecture samples. And it's new updated eShop with a bunch of new cool stuff that was announced that Frank totally knows because he already watched it because it already happened.
Oh yeah,
But
my list
the
over
cool
here.
part, the cool part about the eShop app is that the engineering team and teams like they wanted to reinvent it with all the new .NET 8 stuff that was announced and really cool new stuff that's coming out. And we wanted to redo the UI. So that meant recreating it. So it's a eShop for a sort of a outdoor sporting goods, kind of makes Pacific Northwest sense. It's called Northern Mountains. And the cool part about it is that every single product, name, description, image was all AI generated.
Oh, interesting. Did you have an intern just sitting there at a prompt, click, 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 or whose job was that? I wonder. That's fun.
Yeah, I think it was, I don't exactly know how it came out as far as like the product and the styling of it, but I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it was prompting for like one to give me a list of all this stuff and all this other stuff, and then it was like generating all this stuff for it. But it's like 100 products all generated, and it's pretty cool. Like, and what it generated was pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie about it. I'm pretty impressed. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, so that's actually a great segue. So, in terms of developer stuff, we actually had a request for an episode to do, and I want to get to it, which is someone's like, how do you actually build an app out of these things? Because they are so weird. They're just these big text processors. Uh, on that note, like, so you're a developer and you want to try to use this to like solve different problems for the user and present interfaces. You want to get data out of the neural network in a format that you can actually interpret. And
Mm-hmm.
everyone, um, JSON, just JSON, just have the neural network output some JSON. So in your case, you could have had it output a JSON list of products. And then
Yep.
you could have said, here, given this JSON list of products, give me prompts for image generators to do all that. But there are no guidelines saying exactly what text it should output. You could say, please give me some JSON, but it might put like a little blurb in the front. It might put like the 3 ticks for markdown in there. It's a text generator. It's random, sometimes it's going to be crazy with its formatting. Well, and there are different solutions to this problem in the open source world, but in the OpenAI world, they've announced from a developer's point of view, this is awesome. You can require that the neural network give you back JavaScript.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, so in that way, you can reliably get back an object that you can parse and just interrogate with any programming language. So it's a small thing, but it's a big step in the road of actually making these useful to developers.
That's awesome. I mean, I think that's super duper cool in general. And again, I don't know exactly how it was all generated and how it was all coming out at the end of the day, but I do kind of like that prompting mechanism. And in fact, I even saw on Bing, for example, recently I tweeted it. It was like, create a C# application that does this thing, blah, 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 blah. But then at the end of the day, I might want to keep talking to it and then have it actually create something like a CS Project solution, right? Like, hey, just check this into source
Yeah.
code. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been working on trying to like nurse them along the way. I'm like, here is a very vague app description. Generate me a more detailed app description. Okay, given this detailed app description, tell me what are the main pages of the app. Have it list those out. Okay, given all of that, this big buffer. Now generate me every XAML file. Now generate me every CS file. Generate every HTML file needed to implement all those pages. And with the right prompting, you can actually get it to generate complete apps, smallish apps and things like that. But it still takes getting the output to be exactly what you want is still a trick. This JSON thing is a good step forward for that. But
Yeah.
we are still in the weird world of these are just text generators.
Now, you said, though, also that they are doing something in and around an app store of some sort. Like, what is that about?
Okay, so it the JSON thing is like one way to force that general network to give you some output. But what if you actually want to change its whole nature? Like this thing was always told through all its training that it's a helpful assistant and it's going to assist you. But what if you want it to be something else? What if you want it to be like a role playing game? What if you want it to be like a text adventure game and it just generates like a story for you, an adventure for you? Uh, this is things we would call fine tuning in the world. You would give it a new set of data, a new way of acting, and from that data, train it up. You would fine tune it. You wouldn't change all the network parameters. You would only change some, and so it would behave in the way that you want it to behave. This is all trying to get it to behave in a way that's useful to us. And what they've done is simplify that process and created kind of a UI, a basic UI, to not fine tune the model, but fine tune the model. So it will guide you through the process of you say, like, you just in very vague words say generally what you want the thing to do. And it will either ask you more questions and drill down or be more descriptive. Or you can even just upload a bunch of files and be like, act like this, or here's some information to consume and things like that. So it's not fine tuning, but it's a very it's a lighter step on that. And they're calling these GPTs, plural, GPT, plural,
Oh,
GPT. Yes. So you, James, can go create a GPT. I can have a GPT. The cat can have a GPT. I could have 2 GPTs if I wanted to. And the idea is you do this not fine tuning, but fine tuning of the network. And then you start selling those puppies. I sell to you Frank's GPT, which responds with a cat limerick at the end of everything. I don't know. just some tuning of the model that does something interesting. They're calling them GPTs, and they will have a store. So I need to start making some GPTs.
Now, where exactly would these GPTs show up? Like in APIs or like inside of, because they have the things that are inside of Chat GPT, but like these GPTs would be other GPTs that live somewhere?
Yeah, so GPT has another integration point where it can contact services. Um,
Yeah.
right. So the things that you see inside there are services that integrate with GPT. So it looks for certain clues and then calls a web API or something to get further information and present that to you. These are different. These could include that, but they don't have to. These are just more like a behavioral change to the model. Not, I think that's the best way to think about it. Is you're just changing its kind of primary directive of how to behave when presented with you. Um, and these will be just in the app. Yeah. um, probably. We'll see about Apple's rule of no app stores in the app store. So we'll see how that
Yeah.
goes. But who knows? Maybe we'll buy all these things with coins.
So it sounds like you're excited overall then.
I am honestly just because I want to go create some GPTs. I want to have
Nice.
fun with that and see,
Nice.
because I think these neural networks are great as oracles, as the new Wikipedia. If you have a
Yeah.
question, just ask it. But they can do such much more hilarious stuff if you can just prod them, if you prompt engineer them into doing more interesting things. And it's fun to get them to do much more interesting things than just being a know-it-all database.
I like that. I like that. Well, I'm excited. I want to go back and rewatch or at least watch the, oh, this happened, 5-minute overview type of thing. But I think I just got it. So I don't think I have to anymore, Frank. So thank you for breaking it down. Now, one final question is what do you code these GPTs in?
Unclear. But I
Oh,
will say they said they are available to programmers, but they have an app builder UI, a web UI to build
hmm.
one without doing any coding. So the unclear part is what coding can you do? It's not
Yeah.
altogether. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure you can have it shell out to services like I mentioned before. So if you're Expedia or whatever, you can go look up flights or things like that.
That makes sense.
Hmm.
All right. Last quick one here. 3 topics today. Question from our Twitter. You can reach at us at x.com/ at merge conflict FM or twitter.com/ merge conflict FM or just merge conflict.fm. There's buttons on there to do stuff. This is very fascinating because Brad reached out and he said, let's see, this is a thread. This is a thread, but there's a whole thing. Yes. Christian, who then Brad subtweeted and replied to. So Christian reached out and was like, "Hey," what I just tweeted randomly was like, "Hey, Google is now requiring developers to basically authenticate their app if they're a business. There's a whole bunch of things. Um, it says Google announced, well, this other person said there's a few different things. Google has announced that developers with newly created personal Play accounts will soon have to require to test their apps with at least 20 people for a minimum of 2 weeks before applying for access to production. More specifically, Google says developers with personal accounts created after November 13th have to run a closed test for their app with 20 users for 14 days continuously, et cetera, et cetera. That's wild. But additionally, I have a business account on it. This is the ensuring high quality apps on Google Play. Google also is now requiring that businesses verify themselves. This is something you
Okay.
have to do on Apple as well, developer accounts today. Um, so you have to say if you're a personal account or organizational account. I'm an organizational account with my LLC over here. Christian, Brad stepped in, has a whole thing about creating a business entity on this stuff. Brad says, on an early episode of Merge Conflict, I think one of the pieces as advice was not to bother with personal developer accounts. Make an LLC, get an ABN. Makes a lot easier in the future. So I want to kind of follow up on this. This is a little confusing. LLC, ABNs, EANs, DUNS numbers, they're all different. But let me clear
Yeah.
this up. You don't get an ABN number for creating a sole proprietorship LLC. I have an LLC, which is I'm a sole proprietor LLC. One, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a business entrepreneur. Read all your due diligence, just like financial advice, do all this stuff. I have an LLC. The reason I have an LLC is because I create apps and I have a business name that I've registered with the state in which I live. Or if you have moved states, you can have a foreign entity that redirects to the one that you created it in. So let's say, for example, Frank lives in Washington. He has an LLC in the state of Washington. Frank moves to Florida. Frank can create a foreign entity in Florida, pointing back to his entity in Washington. He now has to pay twice, but that means he doesn't have to reset up his entity in Florida, basically. It's very fascinating. Foreign entities,
Wonderful.
they're great. And then also, you don't want that to be pointing to your home address because it's an LLC. So you actually get an in-between company that has a business address and will forward mail to you. It's a whole thing. Anyways, LLC, limited liability company. The whole reason you get an LLC is if for some reason someone sues you, they're not suing you, suing your company, right? Now, granted, you are your company, but your company is the front of the business, right? In general. So I have a separate business checking account. There's business checking accounts that you can get on there. And then there is something else, though, whether you have an LLC or other things, and Frank can talk about what he has specifically. There's something called a DUNS number. What is it? Duns and Bradstreet number. Ugh. We did a whole episode on Duns number. They're stupid. But basically, Duns and Bradford, it's just an in-between intermediate that verifies businesses and gives them a unique identifier. Because you could have an LLC, you could have you can have a C, an S corp, you could have a C corp, all these different things, right? The DUNS number brings that together. That allows you to have like one searchable database that's out there. So I have an LLC. Now the LLC, since you're a sole proprietorship, right? Your business doesn't file taxes. You file taxes because it's you. You are the company, even though there's a front to the company, right? So that's an important aspect as well. So you don't get an EAN number, which would be if you had a S corp or a C corp or a corporation. Nope. That's a business account in which you have a number, right? Am I wrong?
You were so good up till there. Everything was perfect. Everything was.
Well, that's because I don't have one. I have an LLC, so I don't have to worry about it. So Frank will tell you all about the business corp side of it. Go for it.
Thanks for that. No, we'll just talk about the EIN then real quick. In America, in the USA, US of A.
Yes.
That's your employer identification number. That's only if you have employees. So the moment you hire an employee, you will have to go get an EIN. And that becomes what you file your taxes under. You can request one without employees also. I did that. I got employees quickly, but sometimes you just want an EIN just so you're so you have the pleasure of filing multiple tax returns. The real glory and real prize of it all. Yeah. And I do recommend everyone, if you're an app developer out there, don't do a personal account. Do go get an LLC. In the United States, you can mostly just do it online. You pay them like $100 and you have a company. Every year, go click a few more buttons and your company will be in good standing. And so then the only thing you have to deal with is taxes. And I won't advise you there, but sole proprietor is nice and simple. Keeps your personal taxes in line with it. Just do it. It's not that big a deal. And you get to have a fun party trying to come up with a fun name for your fun company. I am sad that Google's doing all this verification. So rewinding all the way back to the beginning there, because speaking of the DUNS number, anytime you change address, you got to go update your DUNS database, because being a third party, it is completely random where they get their information. So even if you have a business, go check your DUNS information. You'd be surprised what random junk that they start posting as the truth there. And then if you're on Apple, if you do an address change, you actually got to go through a whole process and everything. Something I still haven't done, embarrassingly enough. I should get on that.
It's true. Yeah. So there's a few things that we had talked about, sort of hackish, sort of little workarounds too. Like there are like business boxes you can get. I don't know. There's the whole thing. But one of the things that you most likely want to do is actually get a registered agent. That would be the thing that you want to look at in general. So, for example, there is the place where mail gets sent or things get sent. And ideally, it's not your house information, right? So this is also the
Yeah.
important aspect of it. Well, because people could just look up your LLC and then they've doxed you, right? But
Right. That I just wanted to say that's the whole reason. Otherwise, it's very convenient to have it at your house. If you don't mind being doxxed, it's very
yes,
convenient to have it brought to your house.
a registered agent, on the other hand, which you can then pay money for, as well, everyone makes money, is
Yeah.
literally an office that all they
Hmm.
do is say, yes, the business
Yeah.
resides here,
Yeah.
basically. And then it routes, and then you tell them your home address and they route mail
Yeah.
to you if accordingly, basically.
An
So
even better hack than that is if you have an accountant or anyone else, just be like, "Hey, can I use your business address as my mailing
yeah,
address?" And then slip them a couple bucks every month.
totally. So there's all those different aspects of it, but yeah, I totally agree. And if you have a personal account now, you can change it over. It's all there. Now there's something different though. Is I remember on Apple though, there's actually three different types of accounts. There's personal, then there's this personal, and yet you're a business, and then there's enterprise. Those are the enterprise is
Mhm.
a different thing. On Apple, I only pay $99 a year. I don't pay the
Yeah.
whatever extra fee as an enterprise because I'm not an enterprise, but you can register as an organization under the name. So that's where you see Refractored, or you see, I guess yours is just Kruger Systems, right? So there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yep, same org for decades now, it feels like.
Yeah.
Somehow it's still survived all their account transfers.
And LLCs are fun in some states. Like when I had set up mine originally in Arizona, and I let that one expire, basically just don't
Mm.
renew it, and then it goes away. You had to get, I don't know if Washington did this too. It was a while ago since I did it in Washington, but I you have to get your business published in a newspaper that
Oh,
you were that
God.
you were created
No.
entity. So
Jeez.
there's literally
Oh
newspapers
my
in Arizona
god.
that all they do have a section of this. But then it's cool is that they're like the nicest people in the world, and then they send you like the issue where it's like Refractored
Yeah.
LLC, like creation date, blah blah
Oh,
blah. It was cute. I was like, wow,
that
they
is
sent me
cute.
the issue. Yeah, that was cool.
Okay, I
So
created an LLC 2 years ago. They're like web domains. I love collecting companies. I've been starting companies my whole life. Anyway, I started
yeah,
one 2 years ago, and they did not make me publish in a newspaper. Oh my gosh, that is so
yeah,
weird.
that was cool. And then additionally, fun fact is like, for your LLC, you could have multiple LLCs, like you're saying, Frank, because at the same time, your LLC should be a specific business or kind of technology scene. So my web presence of mobile development, so like this podcast, the YouTube, and like my apps that I ship are all under Refractored because it's like a brand. Like Refractored ships blah blah blah, right? But if I start a coffee company, I can't just put that under Refractored. You know what I mean? There's got to be its own coffee LLC. It's got to be separate entity in general. I don't know where the lineage
Yeah.
is. If like it should be super granular, but I'm not a lawyer, so ask a lawyer, I
Well,
guess.
the annoying thing on Apple is they conflate brands with um, government recognized organizations, tax
Mm,
corporations. So, me as Kruger Systems, if I want to publish anything, in every app I release, there's a little Kruger Systems part that shows my other apps, which is good. You know,
yeah,
collect them all, buy all my apps. I want you to do all that. But let's say I want to put an app there that is crazy and wild, and I don't want it as a part of that set. I want it
yeah,
as a part of a different brand or something like that. Then you got to go start another business basically because
yeah,
Apple's backend cannot handle that. They cannot handle one business having multiple organizations, or at least
yeah,
pretty sure they can't. So that's another reason to go spend $100 a year on an LLC.
yeah. Got to do it. Go check it out. There's all the things. Ask a lawyer. But you're right. Like there are services that will do it like from start to finish for you. But every state is different. And some states are like really, really, really easy just to do it yourself, save yourself some money online. It's super simple.
20 years ago, it was a pain in the. Okay, even 20 years ago, it was like fill out 3 forms, put them in an envelope, and put in the mail. No big
Yeah.
deal. But nowadays, like everyone's, it's just online.
Yeah.
Those I meant those services did have a purpose back in the day, and if you're doing like a full corporation, they're sometimes still worth it because LLCs are simple. For an S corporation like I have, you might want to actually hire someone to do it all for you, which is what I did. But an LLC, I say just find the website and just do it.
Yeah.
Don't
Very
lie
true.
on the forms.
Yes. And, like LegalZoom, for example, has a great breakdown if you're interested in LLC versus S Corp versus C Corp versus sole proprietorship, which an LLC is also a sole proprietorship. So there's members that can be on there's multiple LLC types, but sole proprietorship LLC is like what most people will have. It's super simple. But yeah, if you are interested in the other ones, give them a look. I just usually like their advice. I don't actually use LegalZoom, nor are they endorsed by this podcast. However, yeah, it's nice. And just like, here it is, right? And just boom, here it is, So kind of good to know if you're interested in those additional things. But yes, thank you for clarifying the EIN. I totally forgot that that's totally one of those reasons in general.
Yeah.
So give it a go.
Business.
Business. That's it. All right, cool. Thanks everyone for tuning in this week's podcast. Let us know what you thought of .NET Conf and all the amazing announcements at the keynote. That was super awesome and how it was. Right in the show at mergeconflict.fm or hit us up on Twitter at James Montemagno at Proclaim. That's going to do it for this week's podcast. Until next time, I'm James Montemagno.
And I'm Frank Krueger. Thanks for watching and listening.
Peace.